Please rise with me as we read chapter 6 of Nehemiah, beginning in verse 1. It says, "When word came to Sanballat, Tobiah, Geshem, the Arab, and the rest of our enemies that I had rebuilt the wall, and not a gap was left in it, though up to that time I had not set the doors and the gates. Sanballat and Geshem had sent me messages. Come, let us meet together in one of the villages on the plain of Ono. But they were scheming to harm me. So I sent messengers to them with the reply, I am carrying out a great project and cannot go down. Why should the work stop while I leave it and go down to you? 4 times they sent me the message, and each time I gave them the same answer. Then the 5th time, Sanballat sent his aide to me with the same message, and in his hand was an unsealed letter to which was written, It is reported among the nations, and Geshem says it is true, that you and the Jews are plotting to revolt, and therefore you are rebuilding the wall. Moreover, according to these reports, you are about to become their king, and have even appointed prophets to make this proclamation about you in Jerusalem. There is a king in Judah. Now, this report will get back to the king, so come, let us meet together. I sent him this reply, Nothing like that you are saying is happening. You are just making it up out of your own head. They were all trying to frighten us, thinking their hands will get too weak for the work, and it will not be completed. But I prayed, now strengthen my hands. One day I went to the house of Shemaiah, son of Deliah, the son of Metabel, who was shut in his home. He said, Let us meet in the house of God, inside the temple, and let us close the temple doors, because men are coming to kill you. By night they are coming to kill you. But I said, Shall a man like me run away? Or should someone like me go into the temple to save his life? I will not go. I realized that God had not sent him, but that he had prophesied against me, because Tobiah and Sanballat had hired him. He had been hired to intimidate me so that I would commit a sin by doing this. And then they would give me a bad name to discredit me. Remember Tobiah and Sanballat, my God, because of what they had done. Remember also the prophet Noadiah, and how she and the rest of the prophets have been trying to intimidate me. So the wall was completed on the 25th of Elul, in the 52nd day, in 52 days. When all our enemies heard about this, all the surrounding nations were afraid and lost their self-confidence, because they realized that this work had been done with the help of God. Also in those days, the nobles of Judah were sending many letters to Tobiah, and replies from Tobiah kept coming to them. For many of Judah were under oath to him, since he was son-in-law to Shechaniah, son of Arah, and his son Jehohanan had married the daughter of Meshullam, son of Berechiah. Moreover, they kept reporting to me his good deeds, and then telling him what I said. And Tobiah sent letters to intimidate me. You may have a seat. So the previous chapter, as we closed chapter 5, the people were being taken advantage of. The poor people had been, well, actually the whole nation had been in a scarce of food. There was very little food because the people that were coming back from captivity were too many for the crops that were barely being planted. So there was a famine in the nation. And the very little food, the very little crops that were being planted were being mortgaged on over to the people who had more money, which were the leaders of the city. Now Nehemiah put a stop to the work so that he could talk to these leaders, because these guys were supposed to be the ones to set an example to the rest of the nation. Yet they were the ones taking advantage of the people. Not only that, their own assistants were also taking advantage. So these people were being taxed by the king, being pretty much taxed by the assistants, and also they were collecting mortgage over the lands and taking their own sons and daughters as slaves for payment. But Nehemiah said, this has got to stop. And he only talks to the leaders. Though other people were taking advantage of these poor people, he only speaks to the leaders and makes them take an oath. Makes them take an oath. Why take an oath? Because he tells them, you are supposed to be an example. You're supposed to be above reproach. You're supposed to have the fear of God in you and set an example to the rest of the city. Just like James was telling us, you are supposed to be an example. Show me that you're a Christian. Don't simply say you are. Do what the word says. So Nehemiah tells them the same thing. So obviously he had to put a stop to the work at least a couple of days. And now, after taking care of this issue, everybody gets back to work. Verse 1 says, when the word came to Sanballat, Tobiah, Geshem the Arab, and the rest of our enemies that I had rebuilt the wall and not a gap was left in it. So obviously the walls have been completed. Everybody, after their trial, after their issues that they had to deal with, got back to work, got back to serving, got back to doing what God had called them to do. They didn't say, well, now that Nehemiah saved the day, gave us back our lands, made the people, the leaders, give us some food, and give us money back for what they had taken, now we can kick back and relax. We can take a sabbatical. No, they got back to work right at it right away. And it says that they finished the wall. Now it says that though up to that time I had not set the doors and the gates. So he hadn't closed the gates completely. But word got to these guys. Now we haven't heard from them for a few verses before. But now it gets back to them. And later on we're going to see how word, obviously they can see the actual word being done, but how word got back to them that they completed the walls and everything that was happening within the walls. And I keep seeing this as an exciting, like, drama, suspense movie with Nehemiah. How things keep happening and the enemies keeps coming back. And yet he pushes back at them. So verse 2 says that Sanballat and Geshem sent me this message. Come, let us meet together in one of the villages on the plain of Ono. But they were scheming to harm me. How did Nehemiah know that they were scheming to harm him? Obviously he probably, and I know this, he doesn't say here, but we know that Nehemiah had been praying from day one when God had called him to do this work. So obviously every so often he would set himself apart and pray. Just like when he first got to Jerusalem and he had to go inspect. He didn't have to. He took it upon himself to go inspect in detail the walls. Spent 3 days doing what? I'm pretty sure he was praying 3 days in Jerusalem before he set to work, before he called the people together and explained to them, this is what we're going to do. When we're in leadership, it doesn't matter what type of leadership, whether it's in a job, whether it's at home as a parent, in ministry, we're going to be facing a lot of criticism. Now, it can be constructive criticism where we can say, you know what, let's sit down and talk about that. But a lot of the times, I think more so than not, the criticism that's going to come to you is going to be negative. In one aspect, I'm pretty sure that people have told you the way you raise your kids should not be so. The way I raise my kids is better. Or giving you examples, or what you do with your kids. I know for us, at least many of times, they've asked us, because we homeschool the girls, what about their social life? Aren't you afraid that they're not going to be sociable with other people? My answer to them has been, not the beginning, but now it is. I'm like, well, that's why I'm keeping them away from the rest of the world. Their social life, who they socialize with. Now that I'm trying to keep them in a bubble, I can never keep them in a bubble. Or the way you run a ministry, the way, in one of the first criticisms that I received in this church, I mean, our ministry, though the church has been for quite a few years already, but this ministry, they changed the name of the church. The way, the vision that we're supposed to be following. Why? And where are you going with that? Why are you doing things differently? Well, because God has called me to do this. This is what God called me to do. Or why are you saying what you're saying from the pulpit, Pastor? Well, if it lines up with what the Bible says, I'm not going to shy away from saying it. Do I got to be careful with the words? And I'm pretty sure I've already stumbled a few times in using the incorrect words. So now Nehemiah says that he felt like the enemy wanted to harm him. He invited him over to the plain of Ono. This plain of Ono, in the history, based on the history of this place in Jerusalem, Ono was a nice, plain, green field, a lot of flowers, a lot of wildlife, a place where, you can go have a retreat. Something where, when we can go to retreats, something that you can get away. There's a lot of rivers, there's a lot of nature. And what the enemy was telling him, get away for a little while. Come hang out. You've been doing a lot of work. You deserve to rest. Come hang out with us. Let's talk. But Nehemiah was not gullible. Not only he was not gullible, but he was in tune with God. And he told them, I perceive. He had the gift of discernment. Though the Holy Spirit has not been mentioned yet here, he was given this gift to have discernment over people, what they were telling him. And he was not afraid. At least he didn't show that he was afraid of this enemy. He wasn't going around, getting all jumpy up because of every little shadow he sees. And of course, the name Ono is like, oh no, I'm not going there. Oh no. So Nehemiah says, no, I'm not going there. And the enemy says, come on. Why do you have to have such high standards? Why don't you just come down? Verse 3 says, so I sent a messenger to them, and with this reply, I am carrying a great project, cannot go down. Why should the work stop while I leave it and go down to you? I have a lot of things to do. These are the things of God. I have a bad feeling about this. I ain't going down there. One of the good things that in marriages, that you get paired up with somebody that, and I'm not saying one or the other is more in tune with God, but a lot of the times, at least this is true with my wife, she speaks with God more often than I do. I know I am the pastor, but she has a lot of more intimate talk with God, and God speaks to me through her. And a lot of the times, we should be paying attention to our spouses. I have a bad feeling about this girl. Invite them in. Nehemiah said, no, sir. I have a task to complete here. I have a responsibility to take care of this job. God called me to do this. If God commands me, I got to obey Him. I ain't got no time to go down and take a retreat. Now, this retreat that I'm talking about is not the same as you would go on a retreat, whether it's the ladies' retreat or a men's retreat. When you go to these types of retreats, men's or ladies' retreat, or even marriage retreats, you go there to meet God. You go there because you need to get away from the rest of the world and meet Him there. You may even feel like, especially when you feel like, man, I shouldn't go. What's the point? That's when you should go the most. Because that's when the enemy is telling you, man, you're better than, you don't need that. You don't need none of that. But Nehemiah said, no, I don't need no retreat. I don't need to get away. God didn't call me. God didn't lose my number. He's going to call me if He does want me to go to this no field. No, thank you. I got stuff to do. Let's keep working. Verse 4 says that 4 times they sent me the same message, and each time I gave them the same answer. So Nehemiah was very consistent about what his answer was. No, no, no. But the enemy, this is our enemy. He looks for tactics. He looks for ways. When he can't get to you one way, he's going to look for another way to get you. And the only one that are going to be attacked is those who are truly devoted to God. Verse 5 says, then the 5th time, Sanballat sent his aide. So like that, it's going to make any difference. Now he sends his assistant to me with the same message. And in his hand was an unsealed letter in which was written, it is reported among the nations, and Geshem says it's true. Oh, because Geshem says it's true, so now it must be true, huh? That you and the Jews are plotting to revolt, and therefore you are building the wall. Moreover, according to these reports, you are about to become their king, and have even appointed prophets to make this proclamation about you in Jerusalem. There is a king in Judah. Now this report will get back to the kings to come. Let us meet together. I sent him this reply. Nothing like that you are saying is happening. You are just making it up out of your own head. Something similar to this. Things haven't changed from back then to now. Nehemiah didn't want to be king. He was already governor. But in the sense that I'm saying, things have not changed politically. Political issues have not changed since then. He sent this open letter to him so that in case he was to give in and say, you know what, I'm going to join you. Let's have a talk. Let's go to, no. They could have used this same letter outside of the servers from the United States government and used it against him. Last year, the Israeli elections were influenced, tipped the scales against the current Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. I can't pronounce his last name, Netanyahu. There's an article right there. I couldn't download the whole thing. But the elections was rigged, or actually our own presidency, current presidency, use our own money to tip the scales against this prime minister. Why? He wanted to influence the elections. Now, Nehemiah was not running for king. He didn't want to be king. But politicians back then, they wanted to influence, wanted to put a bad name to what's going on, the work that Nehemiah was sent to do. I'm pretty sure that Nehemiah given in, it would have been all over CNN or KSAT 12 or whatever channel was back then. There was no TV back then. We see Nehemiah, the headlines, we see Nehemiah, in a luxurious resort, hanging out with the enemy. Sanballat. He gave in. He gave his back to his own people. The enemy has limited power to what he can see, how far he can see. We're having a conversation, my wife and I, with somebody, earlier this week, talking about that same topic. How much insight does the enemy have? Can he see when God is going to bless us? Can he see when God is holding a blessing? He may not necessarily be able to know when God is going to bless somebody, but he knows, the enemy knows, when somebody is truly devoted with the Lord. And he knows that that person eventually is going to receive a blessing. And because he knows that we are devoted to him, he wants to put a stop to us. Just like Nehemiah, he knows the enemy, all his enemies know that he's doing a good work. So they want to put a stop to it. The enemy knows that in the end he loses. He knows the Bible. He was there from the beginning when the Bible was written. He knows what's going to happen at the end, but yet he wants to take down as many of us sinners who don't know God, who has not accepted Christ. But Nehemiah says, no, I'm not going to give in. I'm not afraid of you. 2 Timothy 1:7 says that we have not received the spirit of bondage unto fear, but the spirit of power and love and of sound mind. Sound mind. Of sound mind. To not take everything that is taught to us and believe everything. And Nehemiah tells him, what you're thinking, also tells him, what you're thinking, you're just making it up in your own head. Nothing like that is happening here. I don't want to be king. Why would I want to be king? I already serve the king that God has been using to do this work right here. I don't want to be king. Verse 9 said, they were all trying to frighten us, thinking their hands will get too weak for the work and it will not be completed. When you get criticized, when you get ridiculed as they were, as Nehemiah was, when you get put down, the enemy comes at you, attacks you, uses different tactics to scare you. Whether it's, struggles, whatever. In this case was with words, intimidation. Words, just like James was saying, that the tongue is venomous. It's like a fire. A tongue, a fire set from hell. With just a little spark, it can burn a whole forest. And when you get so much attack, when you get so much, you're eventually going to spiritually wear out, and sometimes even physically wear out. You're going to feel like, God. And that's what happened to Nehemiah. Verse 9 says that they were all trying to frighten us, thinking their hands will get too weak and it would not be completed. And then the latter part of verse 9 says, but I prayed. He turned to God and said, now strengthen my hands, God. Strengthen my hands. I'm tired. You will get tired. You will get weak. But it doesn't mean it's the end of it. That's when Nehemiah turns and says, strengthen me, God. Give me strength to continue in this work. Give me strength to continue in this ministry that you call me to. God, strengthen my hands to continue working for you. Verse 10 says, one day I went to the house of Shemaiah, son of Deliah, the son of Methael, who was shut in his home. Gives a sense that he was probably sick. He was not able to leave his home. So Nehemiah had to pay him a visit. So obviously, this guy had to call Nehemiah over. Hey, come meet with me. Then he said, let us meet in the house of God, inside the temple, and let us close the temple doors. Because men are coming to kill you. By night they're coming to kill you. Nehemiah, hide. The enemy is coming for you. Let's go hide and close the doors of the temple. You need to hide. Verse 11 says, but I said, shall a man like me run away? Or shall someone like me go into the temple to save his life? I will not go. There's no way I'm going to go. Who do you think I am? If God called me to do something, and I have enemies who want to kill me, God is going to protect me. That's what Nehemiah is saying. There's no need for me to be hiding. Besides, the walls have already been rebuilt. Now, they're coming at night. So what? God didn't tell me to go hide. God didn't tell me to go there. I realized that God had not sent him, but that he had prophesied against me because of Tobiah and Sanballat had hired me. So he said, I realized. So obviously his discernment, his gift of discernment again on play here. I realized that God had not sent him. Why? Because God did not tell Nehemiah himself. You know, one of the things that I think all of us, I know all of us, should be careful with when somebody comes to you and says, hey brother, I have a word of God for you. You know, we should be worried about that, because why would God use somebody else to bring a word to you? Now, he may be able to use somebody else to confirm something to you, but if God sends somebody, which he doesn't, you know, why didn't God tell you directly? Why is he using somebody else to tell you something that God wants to tell you? Now, there may be that God already told you something and he uses another person to confirm it to you. That's different. But if God is sending somebody, that's got to be like, hey, God didn't lose my number. He knows I read the Bible, so he should be able to speak to me. So he had been hired to intimidate me so that I would commit a sin by doing this. And they will give me a bad name and discredit me. Again, the political corruption. If I give in, if I do something I'm not supposed to, because I'm not a priest, I shouldn't be in the temple of God at night, they're going to use it against me. They're going to dig up dirt against me. And he said, I perceived, I realized God had not sent him. So obviously he was bought off. He was a mole in the city. 14 says, remember Tobiah and Sanballat, my God, because of what they have done. Remember also the prophet Noadiah, and how she and the rest of the prophets have been trying to intimidate me, so that the walls was completed on the 25th of Elul in 52 days. So now the walls have been completed. So now he says, remember these guys. He's already said that. He's already prayed them. Pray about them. God, take care of these guys. But notice how now he mentions other enemies, other people who were speaking against him, which have not been mentioned before. These prophets. We've been hearing about Tobiah and Sanballat. We've been hearing about them. But now we see that also prophets. So obviously there was more than one enemy. There was more than one group of people going against Nehemiah. Verse 16 says, when all of our enemies heard about this, all the surrounding nations were afraid and lost their self-confidence. Why did they lose their self-confidence? They saw that in 52 days, despite of how much opposition was coming to them, despite of how much work had to be done, and how they were dealing also with the famine and corruption within their own city. Because they realized that this work had been done with the help of our God. Also, in those days, the nobles of Judah were sending many letters to Tobiah, and replies from Tobiah kept coming to them. For many in Judah were under the oath of him, since he was the son-in-law of Shechaniah. So family, they're blood related. Now there's blood relation here going on. Back and forth, there's letters being sent to one another. The son-in-law of Shechaniah, son of Arah, and his son Jehohanan had married the daughter of Meshullam, son of Berechiah. Moreover, they kept reporting to me his good deeds, and then telling him what I said. And Tobiah sent letters to intimidate me. So now the enemy is using their own people within. Again, that often happens with the church. Not within our own church necessarily, but the church as a whole. Uses their own people to destroy ministry within. Start rumors, little fires here, little fires there. So-and-so said this, so-and-so said that about you. You should go talk to them. You know, instigate here, instigate there. The wolves in sheep clothing come in. And we don't realize that they're here. See, the world wants to portray that the enemy, the devil, is this red thing, creature with a pitchfork in his hand. When in reality, he's not. He is the most beautiful angel God ever created. He's the angel of light. He was the angel that God entrusted so much, but because of his own pride, was sent down, casted down. And when he comes to us, we think that it's going to be something like red flags running all over the place, lights and everything, warning, 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 this is from the devil, this is an attack. In reality, no, it's going to seem like it's nothing harmless, nothing harmful, everything's harmless, everything's cool. Come hang out, just like Nehemiah was being told, come hang out with us. And oh no, lower your standards a little bit. One of the tactics the enemy uses is that he tells us Christians, that's fine, believe in God. I believe in God too. It's okay, just believe in God. Oh, you accepted Christ? Cool, that's fine. You don't have to go to church. You don't have to serve. Just you don't even have to read the Bible. You're set. You made it in. You're done. You don't need to go through this mumbo-jumbo religion, because Christians are hypocrites. You're in. That's fine. You accepted Jesus Christ. You're in. Don't worry about it. You're set. Today, I was having a conversation with somebody who said that they accepted Christ. And we're having this conversation, and he initiated it. And we got to the point where I was like, well, what's holding you back from coming back to church? Not that church is going to change you, but coming back to church, whatever church you incorporate yourself to. If it's a Bible teaching church, that's going to make the change in your life. Not that the church is going to change you, but your relationship with Christ. What's preventing you from doing that? Because he became so used to just hanging out with the world. And he said this. I didn't persuade him to say any of this. We just had this conversation. He admitted. I just started hanging out. I moved from one place to another, and I know that religion is not the way. I know. So I said, if you know, and he said, yes, I know, because I know. Then what are you doing? And we talked about different other topics related with the different versions of the Bible, NIV and King James and so on and so on. But the enemy uses those tactics. It's okay. You'll be alright. You already have your name in the book of life. You don't need to do anything else. And little by little, he plants that in. Just have one drink. You're okay. You have that freedom. Just hang out with us a little bit longer. You have that freedom. Don't give in. Ted Roosevelt, had many quotes. There's many quotes about him. In one of the books that is written about him, there's a quote that says, "Never give in." He repeats it about 6 times. Never give in. Never give in. Never, never, never give in. Never give in to the tactics of the enemy. The only time you should give in is to biblical morals, high standards of God. Give in to courtesy. Give in to what is right. Give in to your own integrity. But never give in to the tactics of the enemy. And that's what Nehemiah did. He did not give in. Though he was painted a pretty picture, though the enemy used intimidation, he did not give in. And he did it, the enemy did it more than once. He used other people, prophets, to speak against him. He used people within the city after it had been completed. 52 days it took to complete. And now the enemy says, "You died, you completed. You came, hey, hooray, come hang out." Earlier this week I also had a conversation with other pastors. And I'm the rookie there. But we're talking about the different situations that happen throughout the churches. And how it's not so different from one another. And we have this conversation so that in case, certain things happen over there with certain people, and then some people end up at another church, which that was the case, one of the things we were talking about. But amongst those things, the different issues that people deal with, because they're normal people just like you and I. They go through the same things, the different scenarios, but the same battles. So, financial problems. Not that they're in debt. Financial problems that when something breaks down, the vehicle breaks down, something at home breaks down, they need this medical attention, and so on and so on. And one of them said, well, it's a good thing that we already knew what to do when this thing happened. And it's a good thing because we already know we were prepared for this. And I said, I'm the rookie guy, and I just said, well, maybe certain things keep happening for a purpose, for a reason. Have we said to God, what are you showing me this time around? Are we being so confident in ourselves because now we know, because we're so wise, we know the enemy is going to attack us there, so we're confident in that area? Why are we not saying, well, what are you showing me this time around, God? I already know what to do, but are you wanting me to do something different with this situation now? And not know, well, I know how to take care of this. I'm okay. I know how to handle this, God. I got this one. You can sit this one out. Nehemiah said, no. God, strengthen my hands. Rely back to God again. Let's pray.